values. The UUA excuse me, could have chosen to highlight in their new definition of our principles and purposes for the Unitarian Universalist Association, finalized in June of 2023. Some expected reason or peace would have been named. Instead, generosity got the coveted naming as one of our core values. This is a bit of a surprise because it doesn't show up in any previous statements of our core values. Today, I'd like to see if I can persuade you why it should be one of our core values. For me, that motivation comes from my appreciation of Buddhism and my practice of meditation. The first meditation class I attended around 1985 was offered without charge. The tradition from the time of the Buddha 2,600 years ago was and continues to be the teachings are freely offered. That includes meditation retreats too. The teachers at those retreats meet with students and offer Dharma talks without charge. And the participants are encouraged to make free will offerings, or dana as it's called, to the teachers. In Southeast Asia, Buddhist monks go on alms rounds to ask for food early in the morning. They eat only what they are given, and they give away what's left over. They have a very simple, restricted set of possessions that are also given to them. They live completely dependent on the community to support them. And they return much to the community by educating children, teaching the lay community, offering counseling and guidance, and then celebrating rites of passage. Without the generosity of the community, these monks couldn't and wouldn't be able to practice or support their community or their sangha. The generosity of these monks isn't just what material is given to support them. It is a reciprocal relationship of mutual support. If we think of generosity only as a monetary transaction of giving alms, then we miss the wider dimensions. This easily transfers to our congregations. Yes, your financial support is critical to the functioning of our congregation, but generosity can be so much more. Here are a few of the ways generosity happens here. Presence. Just showing up matters a lot, even when the time changes. When people come regularly on Sunday morning and stay after the service, they help create our sense of community. Showing up for a social event or one of Zach's fine educational offerings he was just talking to you about, participating in congregational democratic process, showing up for all these events and more are important acts of sharing your presence with each other. It creates energy and excitement that everyone benefits from. Labor, being a greeter on Sunday morning, bringing refreshments for coffee hour, teaching in religious education, serving on a team or a committee and attending those meetings, being a worship associate, singing in our choir, you'll hear them next week, serving as a pastoral care associate, offering a listening ear to someone in need of emotional support, being friendly to a new person and expressing interest in them, helping with our grounds or maybe a building project, sharing a needed skill or talent with the congregation. All these and more help create a vibrant community what kind of community we want at Fourth Universalist. Attention. I do not take for granted that you will sit and listen to me and not decide to turn to your phone, check social media, read email, or doom scroll. Your attention is very precious. Social media companies covet your attention and will do everything in their power to hold it as long as possible. We do not take your attention for granted and do everything possible to be worthy of your generosity, offering it to this congregation. Care and compassion. The experience of offering empathy is a deeply generous gift. To be willing to allow another person's cares and concerns into our consciousness and allowing an inner emotional response to their suffering is a gift of love. And if that is too much, to offer someone who you may not even know very well, offering compassion and loving kindness can happen even when there isn't that emotional link. Both empathy and compassion are skillful means of generosity that are deeply valued by those in need who might feel isolated in their circumstances. Wisdom. When presence, attention, and care and compassion come together with a focus on one another, the opportunity to share wisdom can arise. Ignorance and delusion cause so much suffering in the world. Offering just the right wisdom to dispel that ignorance and delusion can be a life-saving gift of generosity. This isn't prescriptive or controlling directives to another person. It is a sharing of one's learning about life through study combined with direct experience that can offer transformation to another person. We are a religious tradition that believes in the potential prophethood of each of us, not just the clergy. We are all wise in different ways. One of the great resources of our congregation is our collective wisdom. So there are many ways to practice generosity besides giving money. But as I'm sure most of us already know, people sometimes give with expectations. This often comes up around Christmas time. It can be quite awkward to give a modest, lightly intentional gift and get an expensive, carefully planned and designed gift from another person. People often agree on an amount to spend on gift exchange to minimize such embarrassment. Because generosity is such an important part of Buddhism, the Buddha was careful to talk about the importance of the intention of the gift. Here are some non-optimal reasons to give. Some give with annoyance, wishing the receiver was not there. Think about giving money to a panhandler on the street. Some give as a way of offending or embarrassing the recipient with the idea of insulting them. Some give because they are fearful of the recipient and hope to placate them. Think of how many donations went to the current president with that in mind. Some give to return a favor of a previous gift in the past, which is more of a transaction than a gift. Some give to someone else in hope of getting a better gift in favor back in the future. Think of how people are very solicitous of wealthy relatives, hoping that they'll be in the line of inheritance. Some give because they know giving is a good thing to do, not necessarily because they care about the other person or the gift offered. Some give to burnish their reputation and to beautify their minds. Some give altruistically because they perceive the need in another. The Suttas give this example. I cook, they do not cook. It is not proper for me who cooks not to give to those who do not cook. They are driven by the outer need, not necessarily by an inner desire. What's important is that in all these cases, even with mixed or even devious motives, the giving still has value. The benefit accrues to the giver, just at different levels. And the result of a less than perfect gift can influence the giver to become more generous in their giving in the future. The cooking example brings up one big complication of generosity, feeling compelled to give. I'm thinking of the traditional division of labor with the wife hard at work at the stove and the husband in slippers before the television, martini in hand after a hard day at the office, waiting to be fed. I'm thinking of the wage slavery of the masses in the capitalistic system where workers are not allowed to fully profit from their labor. Any form of compelled giving isn't what I'm talking about this morning. The finest, most beneficial giving arises spontaneously from the heart, without self-interest, but only for the benefit of the other. It comes from a deep appreciation of the oneness of all being and our inseparable interconnection with the receiver of the gift. I don't know about you, but I find it challenging to give this way. More often, my giving falls into the list I gave of suboptimal giving strategies. If you give altruistically and selflessly, you will be a shining example for the rest of us. And in fact, some of us are indeed better at generosity than others. This is one of the benefits of a religious community. It is inspiring to be around generous people. And this congregation is a communal place. We can practice generosity and all get the benefit from each other's gifts. The final kind of generosity I'll mention, the Buddha extolled, was giving to the Sangha, to the community of Buddhist monks, individuals who have given their lives to awaken and serve. Generosity to the Sangha is highly rewarded. That transfers, I think, well to supporting this congregation. Your staff and I are dedicated to serving you and your family's religious and spiritual growth and development. And this congregation isn't thinking of just our needs, but also the needs of those around us and society at large. We have values we cherish and need to be advanced and preserved. And we believe they have value for the world. So I hope my words have expanded your frame of reference for generosity. The Buddha was very clear about what his purpose was. He wanted to understand the causes of human misery and find a way to help everyone be free from that suffering. The causes he identified were greed or craving, hatred, ill will, and aversion, and ignorance or delusion. The antidotes he discovered were generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. The path to developing them is through ethical action, mental development, and developing the capacity for wisdom through recognizing directly what is true. From the beginning of the path to the end, generosity is central to each and every step. You can begin or advance your own awakening process right here, right now, through practicing generosity. So be it.